Number one, it increases your income in retirement. Number two, it increases the likelihood that your money lasts through life expectancy. And number three, it increases the amount of money that you can pass on to the next generation. You potentially in a lower tax bracket, or you're in the same tax bracket but have more room in that tax bracket within which to realize income through a Roth conversion. So let's say you're making 150 during your working years, then you're down to 100. Now all of a sudden, instead of having only $56,000 in your 22% tax bracket, you now have $106,000 in your 22% tax bracket, and then everything you have in the 24. So there's just a lot more flexibility, a lot more room within those lower brackets that you can take advantage of once you retire. So I think that people need to take a hard look at that retirement income valley as soon as they retire and try to get those RMDs by the time they set in at 73 or 75. You get those RMDs low enough that they can be offset by your standard deduction in retirement. So then your RMDs coming out of your IRAs are 100% tax-free. And I think that's a great position to be in. You have RMDs that are completely offset by your standard deduction, and maybe they're low enough that they don't cost Social Security taxation either. That's sort of the perfect world. And so I'd really take seriously, once you retire, the time period between when you retire and when RMDs are set to kick in to get your tax situation under control.
Yeah, I like that retirement income valley. Can you explain who Wade Pfau is? You've mentioned him a couple of times, and you and I know the importance of Wade's opinions, Dr. Pfau's opinions, and his credibility. Can you, just for our listeners, can you talk about who he is?
Wade Pfau is a PhD out of Princeton. He's a professor at the American College. I would say he's probably one of the three foremost experts in the world on guaranteed lifetime income. Okay, so his job is to study the impact of guaranteed lifetime income on retirement. And his basic position is that when you include guaranteed lifetime income in your retirement, number one, it increases your income in retirement. Number two, it increases the likelihood that your money lasts through life expectancy. And number three, it increases the amount of money that you can pass on to the next generation. So he's generally in favor of bridging retirement income shortfalls. So take whatever your income requirement is, subtract from it any sort of pensions or Social Security. So that's your retirement income shortfall. He's a big fan of bridging that retirement income gap with guaranteed lifetime income. And then once you have that taken care of, what it does is it gives you permission to spend. It also gives you permission to take more risk in your stock market investments, because if you have your lifestyle expenses spoken for, if they're covered by those 2 or 3 streams of guaranteed lifetime income, you have the luxury of watching your stock portfolio recover after a down year before you take further distributions. And let's face it, Mark, sometimes it takes a couple of years for your stock market portfolio to recover. So when you guarantee your income, or you use, for example, annuities as the bond portion of your portfolio, what that does is it gives you the luxury of watching the stock market portfolio recover before you take further distributions. And that takes a lot of angst and anxiety out of retirement, and it makes your money last longer because you're not forced to spend it after a down year in the market.
Yeah, because as many people have learned in the past couple of years, annuity or bonds are up this year generally. But in 2022, that wasn't the case, right? 2022 bonds got hammered.
Right, everybody's down.
There's been quite a few times in my career that we've seen that, and that doesn't make sense to a lot of people because they think of bonds as the air quote safe part of their investments, but they can be just as risky, and they're probably the part of the investment strategies that cause me the most anxiety, right? Just because they're so sensitive to so many different factors. Yeah, good information. So Dave, what's your next book? What are you working on?
I just finished it, believe it or not. The working title is, I got to be careful here because my last book, the working title was Guru, and I ended up changing it to The Guru Gap. So I had a lot of YouTube videos that were talking about it in terms of the Guru. So my publisher may, say, look, Dave, your title is the pits. We're going to give you a new title. That's always possible. I'd love for people of lower income to not pay as much tax, particularly those who are servers or working extra hours. I mean, that's great. Nobody wants to pay more tax than they really need to, but how are we going to pay for it? We just got to be smart about how we're positioning this so that we're not exacerbating the fiscal condition of our country over time.
Yeah, and I think when you put these things in there, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, you also have to be careful to make sure there's not abuse, right? Because suddenly you're paying people, you pay people a small, it's kind of what happens today. Service people get a smaller hourly rate, but because they're counting on tips. So what does that mean? I suddenly have an office staff that I'm paying a lesser amount, but I'm tipping them every week. I mean, people get very, very creative with these things, and to me, again, I don't want to get political here, but these kind of ring of just trying to garner favor with the election masses, right, and make sure that we're teeing up our approval ratings. But I certainly hope that somebody is having a conversation about fiscal responsibility on the whole when we're talking about these issues. All right, so we talked about DOGE. We talked about potential changes in Social Security taxation and extension of middle class tax cuts.